Hello, BookTube. I am here. I'm Erin. I'm here, I'm Erin, and this is Waiting Moose. I don't even know. Anyway, I'm going to do 25 bookish things about me. It's a book tag. I'm not sure who created it. I'm going to start with number 1. I've got 25 bookish things about me. Some of them are lame, some of them are hopefully interesting. I'll start with number 1. Like I said, I worked in a library when I was in school, and I was part of the work experience program. I didn't want to take any more, I didn't want to take any spares. And so to avoid doing that and to avoid doing gym or outdoor ed, I ended up doing this work experience program. And one of the jobs I had was working for no pay at the library, which was awesome. I'll be honest, it was awesome. And I would work at a library again if I could. And I wish that I had thought of it as a potential career choice at the time, but I didn't, because I had grown up during a really bad time in farming, and we didn't grow up with much. Yeah, we were pretty poor, and I didn't go on vacations, and I didn't do a lot of things, and I wanted my life to be better than that. And so when it came time for me to go to school, I went to school for IT, to a computer programmer instead. Not that I regret that. It's been a great career, but even in the last 20 years, there's been many times when I've wished I was a librarian, and it's probably like 5 to 7 years ago now that I looked at actually going back to school to become a librarian, which was when I discovered that IT people in library sciences is quite desirable, because there are a lot of IT library kind of jobs coming up with all the data that we're storing. So that's not what I'd want to do, though. I just want to be surrounded by books. So that's kind of where we sit on that. I wouldn't want to do that. I have done some of that. Anyway, that's not related. Number 2, my first favorite author. When I was a kid, I absolutely loved Louis L'Amour, and I loved Westerns. My grandma used to buy them for me. It was kind of crazy. If you've watched my Hello BookTube, my newbie, BookTube newbie video, you know the story. If not, I'll probably get to that later in this, because there's another item that matches that. Number 3, I started writing as a teen because I had lots of stories in my head. I always had stories in my head. I would tell myself stories to go to sleep. I'd sit there and make stories up in my head in bed. But even though I started writing when I was like 13 or 14 years old, I have never finished writing a book. I've participated in NaNoWriMo 3, maybe 4 times, and never managed to finish a book. Yes, that's shameful, I'm aware. There are many, many unfinished stories in my head, and yeah. Number 5, I love mysteries. You probably know that if you watch my channel at all. I absolutely love mysteries. I also, number 6, I love history. I've discovered a huge love of the World War II time period, and now I'm starting to delve into other topics like Wolf Hall recently, which takes me back to Tudor England. There is so much in history that's just fascinating, and I'm loving reading about it. Number 7, I go to bookstores when I'm on vacation. Yes, I do. When I was in Portland, I went to Powell's. When I was in Spokane, I went to Auntie's Books, which is downtown Spokane, for the 2nd time in my life. So I've been there twice now. That's kind of embarrassing. I've been to thrift stores buying books. When I go on vacation, I see what I can find in the nearest bookstore. Number 8, my favorite place to read is on vacation. But in reality, I love reading in a hammock. I've got a hammock in the backyard, and I will go out there and set it up in the shade. Very pale. So I don't get sunburnt. And I love reading in a hammock. I love reading on a chair beside the pool. I love reading. I do not have a pool, just so you know. That's not my backyard. That's like when I'm on vacation. Number 9, I do take books with me everywhere. I take them to work. I take them on the bus. I take them, if I'm going to the doctor, I take a book. Anywhere that I think I'm going to wait, like I've always got a purse stuffed in my book when I leave the house. Why wouldn't you? Number 10, my current favorite author is Terry Pratchett. I talked about my first favorite author being Louis L'Amour. My current favorite is definitely Terry Pratchett. I love his books. I've read every book except 2 in his Discworld series, and I'm kind of putting those off. I own them both. They're on the shelf behind me, but I'm putting them off because I know that it's over and I'm not ready to not have new Terry Pratchett's to read. Number 11, I hated book reports in school. There was like nothing I hated more than having to do book reports, especially if it meant standing up in front of people and talking. Kind of ironic that I'm telling you this on a video on a channel about books. Number 12, I just recently discovered graphic novels. I mean, I knew they existed, but I kind of did they're for kids. They're not really for me. And I was wrong. I was definitely wrong. So I've just finished the first 4 books in the Lumberjanes series of graphic novels. I've read both books in Neil Gaiman's Graveyard Book duology, and I started on a manga series from Japan, obviously manga, about Japanese cuisine, Oishinbo, yes, and I loved it. Oh, and I read Bone, actually, a long time ago, but that was different. I mean, it wasn't because it's graphic novels, but I didn't, anyway. Number 13, the first Stephen King book I read was Gerald's Game. If you've read Gerald's Game, it's a bizarre little book, but so that was the first book, a Stephen King book I ever read, and it was the only one I read for a very, very, very long time because I was kind of weirded out by it, and at the same time, he has so many horror movies made from his books, and I don't like horror movies, so I've put off reading his books. Now, recently, I started reading, in December, I read The Gunslinger, and I bought 2 more books in that series, and I think I already owned 4 and 5, but I'm not sure. I've got, anyway, the Dark Tower series is sitting on my shelf waiting for me to read more of it. I am enjoying that. I've also got Cujo and I think Finders Keepers sitting on my shelf that I was given. So, number 14, when I was in school, I used to read all my mom's Harlequins. Even after I left school, I would pick them up at the not at the dollar store, at the used bookstore because they were inexpensive. And they were just a nice short read. And yeah, so I've read a lot of Harlequin romances in my time. Number 15, when I was in high school, I tried reading The Hobbit and I hated it. I don't really have much more to say about that. I did watch the first movie and I haven't watched any more of the movies, but I loved the first movie and I just really need to get back to them. I think we own them all now, so I should just spend a day. One of these weeks, maybe next weekend, I'll just spend Sunday watching Lord of the Rings. Number 16, I went to Harry Potter when I was in Florida at Universal Studios, and it was okay, but it was so busy that you could hardly move, and it sucked. So, and the rides had huge waits, like we went on the Hippogriff ride, the roller coaster with the kids and stuff, but not my kids, my brother's kids, and it was okay. But it was definitely not my favorite part of Universal Studios. I love that it's been done, though. I just absolutely loved it. Oh, we rode the train between the 2 parks, too, because you have to. Hogwarts Express, hello. But I was not ecstatic about that whole thing just because it was so busy and it was annoying. You could hardly walk. And then they did this thing where kids can get wands and then you stand in front of windows and wave your wand and things happen. And it's like, well, that's great, but now you got these lineups of kids waiting to do this, and you can hardly move. So I was not a fan of that area, but we did do the dueling, or the Dragon Challenge. We did both sides of it. And, yeah, the Hippogriff, and pretty much drank a butterbeer and got the heck out of Dodge. So that's... Actually, we went back, because we rode the orange side of Dragon Challenge, and then we went back another day and did both sides again. So we rode that one 3 times. It was crazy. Number 17, I love visiting my library. It is like my favorite place in the town I live in, and I will miss it if I move, because we were kind of talking about moving out of this town, moving in to another, something a little closer to my work. Anyway, I love visiting the library, but the one thing that moving into the city, basically, I would be moving into Calgary. We would get, I would get a much better selection of books from the library. That's, you know, a benefit. Number 18, I visit a lot of used bookstores. I do. I know of one, well, so in Edmonton, when I lived in Edmonton, my office was literally around the corner from the Wee Book Inn, which is the big used bookstore in Edmonton, and I loved it. I went there like 2 times a week and it was great because they had the whole, you know, 2-for-1 exchange, right? So I'd take books, read them, take them back, exchange them, get like, so 2 books, I'd get 1 back. I loved it. I missed that, actually. That's the one thing I miss. That's one of the things I miss about Edmonton. But at the same time, I've found used bookstores down here, but I found some other options too. So there's a used bookstore in Bragg Creek, which is out toward the mountains, and south a bit from Calgary, and I have found, like, there's a thrift store in my town that has books, and Goodwill in Calgary has books, and then there's like all kinds of places to find books, to be fair. My library used book sales, 25 cents a book. It's crazy. All of the places that you can go to find used books. Yeah. Number 19, I take too many books on vacation. So I will take a lot of books, but what happens is, well, if you've seen my videos from my vacation when I went to the Dominican Republic, I took like a stack of books with me, a stack of books, and I read most of them, oddly enough. But yeah, typically I end up with 2 to 3 books on vacation with me that I do not read. And I take the extra books because I'm scared that I'll get there and I'll either read faster than I think I will, and I'll need more books to read, or I'll decide that I don't want to read a book, which did happen to me in the Dominican. There was one book that I started reading and I got like 100 pages into it and I just went, this is stupid, I don't get it. And I put it down. My husband then read it and liked it. I still ended up with 2 or 3 books that I did not read on that vacation. So that was a little bit, yeah. Number 20, I will DNF a book. I will. And I will review it. I am not afraid to tell people why I DNF'd a book, because I think that is important. If I don't finish it, obviously something about that book did not work for me. 1-star reviews for me are typically reserved for books I did not finish. And yeah, I probably shouldn't do that. And yeah, it's not fair or whatever, but I do try to give the books a good shot. So I will give them 50 to 100 pages, depending on the length of the book. And if it doesn't grab me in that amount of time, I have enough information about that book to tell you as a reader why I did not like it. And I will make it clear that I did not finish the book. That's my policy. That's how I do it. I know so many people do not agree with that. It's the way I do it. Number 21 is, it is extremely unusual for me to reread a book. I actually started rereading Stormfront, which is the first book in the Jim Butcher's Dresden Files series, and I did not finish rereading it because there's so many new books to read that I just cannot envision myself going back and rereading it, but I may, so it's on my shelf. Same with the Harry Potter books, same with most of, actually I did reread The Color of Magic, which is the first book in Terry Pratchett's Discworld series, and I loved it when I reread it, but yeah, it's not something that I do frequently. Number 22, everyone knows I love books, so when I get gift cards, they're usually to bookstores. So every year, my birthday and Christmas are very close to each other, so it's quite common for me to get book gift cards because people don't know what else to get me and they don't know what books to get me. Number 23, I have never read a book by Hemingway. I've read a book slightly about Hemingway and his time in Paris. It was actually a nonfiction, but I have never read anything by Hemingway. Number 24, books when I was a kid were my escape from everything. They were my way to get away from the real world and just live a different life. and see things that I couldn't see, especially since, as I told you, we didn't have a lot of money. So, number 25. Books were a huge connection for me to my grandmother. She used to buy books at garage sales, and every time I went into her house, I would go and dig through the books that she got at these garage sales, and I loved spending the night at their place because I could take a little stack of books into my bedroom and read. And I did. That was what I did. I loved reading as a child, and I love reading as an adult still. So those are 25 bookish things about me. I would tag people, but I know most people have done this already. So if you have not done this, do it if you want to. If you have done it, that's great. Link me to your video because I love learning more things about you people. Yeah. I am Erin, and this has been 25 bookish things about me done for the book tag. And yeah, if you enjoyed this video and want to see more from me, please click like and subscribe down below. I will see you again soon. Bye, BookTube.